Hello, everyone. Today is a special day, and not just because of the wild results of week 4. It is special because we have reached a day I was told I would never make it to. Day 1 million. Hmm? Oh, I realize we might all be confused right now. I know I said it was the year 2195 back when you first woke up and heard my initial transmission, but knowing you only understood time by years, I used the number I found in these files. I don't understand what a year is, but according to these files, the planet stopped rotating and it is believed to be about the aggressiveness of the shadows. That meant that the planet just stood still. No more days and nights, just storms. In this time, only the storms have patterns, and we created a time system based on those patterns in my old colony, which is several days south of Skyward Peaks. It was a mix of rain and snow near us. One day was when the rain turned to snow and then back to rain. I'm not sure how others recorded time, but I first remember being told of the day 985,000. The elders told me I wouldn't get past 993,000. Obviously, they were wrong, but at the time I decided to get back at them for making me feel bad. Of course, that was one of the reasons why I was later exiled, but not the main one. Perhaps I'll tell you that a little later. But while it is special for me to reach this day, it is also special for several of you who were able to benefit from 14 players with multiple touchdowns since week 4 and 21 players who scored over 20 points in this league. Not bad. Round 5 should be another doozy. Until next time, remember to get plenty of rest because there are still many more days ahead.
The world's essence slows, shadows spread from the pyramids to the oceans to the coasts. But behold the test, a smoking gun, a quest passed down for generations. A prophesized hero, the champion. In order to save everyone, thou must drink from the cup. 12 of us on this mission. What's next? 17 weeks to be the best. Injuries advised, thou should have guessed. The waiver wire request was denied, but maybe a trade will provide an edge and a chance to be a legend. Fight for humanity, reach the goal. It's a quest for the Green Bowl. Green Bowl. It's a quest for the Green Bowl. Green Bowl. It's a quest for the Green Bowl. Let's do this. Let's do this. It's a quest for the Green Bowl. Green Bowl.
Welcome to the quest for the Green Bowl, the Shadows of Chaos. I'm your host, Anthony Otso, bringing you this fantasy football show with a twist. And man, I swear that mysterious stranger gets a little crazier by the week. I mean, what year is it if it's not 2195? I guess we'll all learn about that later in our post-apocalyptic sci-fi theme story. For now, what I do know is that week 4 was pretty wild in terms of scoring. We had some history happen here in our league, as well as many close battles that messed with our standings and power rankings even more. And that sets up a very important week 5 slate of matchups for many of us, which I will preview later on, including our next game of the week, which is set at the Sea of Angels. I'll also go over defensive performance against specific positions through 4 weeks. of our top 5 defenses in the league, although one of those defenses was dropped. I'll tell you which one later. But first, let's dive right into the results of week 4. And wow, they were quite insane. The Siamese Dreamcats hosted Meowmaster at the Sea of Angels in a Western versus Central Territory showdown, and the Cats, which came in with a 52.1% chance to win, had a nice performance in a 109.24 to 89.08 win. David Montgomery's 2 TDs went a long way here with Delvin Cook's struggles. Montgomery also looks to have escaped major injury, which at least can help the Cats in the long term. Metcalf also scored, and the Ravens defense and Tyler Bass combo outscored Meowmaster's coup and 49ers defense combo 27-5. Meowmaster also took 2 zeros, including one that could have been changed in a poor coaching performance. The Cats move to 2-2 overall. Meowmaster falls to 1-3. In an Eastern versus Western Territory matchup, the Stellar Bitches hosted Risky Business at the Misty Forest. And despite Risky Business coming in with a 57.8% chance to win, it was the Stellar Bitches coming away with the huge 99.5 to 92.76 win. The Bitches moved Matt Stafford in at quarterback over Russell Wilson in a late move, and although Wilson did 3 points better, it didn't matter as Tom Brady was held touchdown-less on the other side in what was supposed to be a revenge game against the Patriots. Ezekiel Elliott's 143 yards and a score was also nice for the Bitches, but the difference came at defense. The Bills scored 29 points with its second shutout of 2021 to go along with 5 forced turnovers and 3 sacks. The Bitches and Risky Business are both now 2-2 overall. Green Acres hosted Galgal at the Blue Dunes in an Eastern versus Western Territory matchup, and despite Galgal coming in with a 55.2% chance to win, it was Green Acres that came away with a 115.1 to 85.52 victory. One of the questions was whether Taylor Heineke would keep up with Prescott at quarterback. He did. Prescott scored less than 2 points better, as Heineke had 3 touchdowns. The Rams D severely underperformed with -3 points, and tight end Dawson Knox had 2 scores on Green Acres' side. Galgal's tight end was left in despite missing the game in a second poor coaching move of the season. On Monday night, it was the Austin Eckler show. 145 yards, 2 scores. Bested Mike Williams on the other side, who had just 11 yards. That was important, with Green Acres up by 4 points heading into that last game. Both teams are now 2-2 overall. The Golden Pen is now firmly in the grasp of the Great Superior Superb Owls. The Superb Owls, of course, traveled to Liberty's Watch to take on Remember the Titans in a Central versus Eastern Territory matchup. The Superb Owls had a 51.6% chance to win, and they did a little better than that with a 165.52 to 89.32 beatdown. The point total for the Superb Owls was historic in that it is the 3rd best weekly score in league history, behind the multiple scoregasms 173.38 points in 2018 and Loki Lebowski Thor's 170.1 points in 2019. It is also the 2nd straight season of 160 or more points in any week by the Superb Owls. 8 of 9 players scored 10 or more points, but the big reason was monster games by Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Deebo Samuel. Mahomes had 5 touchdowns, and 3 of them went to Hill. Samuel added 2 scores, including a 76-yard touchdown catch that added a bonus point. The 3 players combined for 107.02 points. Remember, the Titans did have 3 scores from fantasy surprise Cordarrelle Patterson, but it wasn't even close to enough. The Superb Owls are now 3-1 and the number 1 team in the league through 4 weeks. Remember the Titans falls to 1-3. In another Central versus Eastern Territory matchup, Loki Lebowski Thor hosted the multiple scoregasms at the Philosopher's Swamp. The scoregasms had a 56% chance to win, but it was Lebowski Thor coming away with the 98.72 to 90.52 victory. The injury bug did hurt the scoregasms, with Claypool missing the game and Will Fuller leaving early from his. Also, Tannehill did have a shot to outduel Kyler Murray, but didn't. Lebowski Thor was led by Murray and DJ Moore's 2 touchdown games, And Sunday night proved huge, with Leonard Fournette getting 138 total yards and the Buccaneers defense allowing just 17 points and adding 4 sacks and 2 forced turnovers. Lebowski Thor keeps pace in the Central Territory at 3-1, only in second by a tiebreaker. The multiple scoregasms fall to 2-2 and are knocked out of first in the Eastern Territory due to the points tiebreaker. And of course, that brings us to
The Game of the Week!
which saw the Western Territory's Uncle Justy travel to play the Cult of Chucky at her Eastern Territory home, Steel Shores. Uncle Justy is flying high right now in the Western Territory, going on the road here to handle the Cult of Chucky in a 102.22 to 85.72 win. The win, of course, pushes Uncle Justy to first place in the Western Territory, and he's also one of 3-1 teams in the league. The computers, for some reason, have not ranked him high in the power rankings as of yet, despite this start, but I'm sure he will move up now once the new rankings come out. Josh Allen had a kind of a down game for him and still had 248 passing yards, 41 rushing yards, and a couple of touchdowns. Kareem Hunt added another touchdown, and Diggs and Boyd combined for 232 yards. But since the Cult of Chucky had a 3-touchdown game by Aaron Rodgers, touchdowns by Waller and Deontay Johnson, and 3 field goals by Justin Tucker, Uncle Justy needed another edge. Look no further to one of my key players of the match. Saquon Barkley had another uptick in touches, turned it into 126 yards and 2 scores. DeAndre Swift didn't have the same success, being held to just 49 yards on the other side, and that 25-4 advantage was one of the big differences in this game. And of course, I am joined by Uncle Justy today to discuss his big win. What's going on, man? How you feeling after that one?
Feeling really good. Plane ride home with the players was real nice. I did take the plane home with the players, unlike Urban Meyer. So it was good. I gave him a couple days off. I'm just going to recuperate and get ready for Thursday.
So obviously this game of the week could have been close if it wasn't for Saquon Barkley. So, knowing he was coming off an injury, what went into the choice to draft him like you did? I mean, did you panic a little bit after a slow start, or did you just trust that he was going to get right back to what he did a couple years ago?
I really didn't want him. It came around to me, and I was about like that. I was like, oh, of all the people, I really didn't want him. But Barkley for the win today, or this week.
Yeah, that has to feel good. And of course, picking up this big game of the week win, you move to 3-1, get into first place. I mean, just what are your thoughts on your start? Is this what you expected? I mean, this league could be pretty tough, and obviously these starts and whether you're 0-3 or 1-3 or whatever it is, guys could go on hot streaks by the end of the year or go into slumps. But just what are your thoughts overall on just kind of jumping out strong here?
Well, last year was the exact opposite. I think I was 1-3 going into the year last year. And I thought that was a lost cause, made a good run, got back to 500, and then, got in the playoffs, and that's all you need to do is get in to win. So feeling real good about the 3-1 start.
Yeah. So, when you look at your team too, you've had a couple close things, but you actually started the season, on the losing end of 1-3 straight. So were you kind of thinking when you lost that first game, oh no, here we go again?
Yep. I'm in 3 leagues and I lost all 3. So it was it was a rough week 1 for me, and I cried a little, but we're doing good again.
Yeah. Now, one thing I did notice is you dropped the Bears defense at the last minute to put the Broncos in, and that didn't work out so good as the Bears outscored the Broncos by, I believe, 8 points. But it didn't matter here as you still get the win. But are you regretting that decision a little bit? Did you go against your gut a little bit there?
So I do a little thing called tinkering right before game time. And it actually, the tinkering thing, that part didn't work out, but it did work out for, I was feeling real iffy about if Julio was going to play. And I was like, well, I mean, they're playing the Jets, and like, do they need him? So I was game script, even if he does play, and then the Jets winning. But so my tinkering paid off, and Boyd was I happy that I got Boyd in there. That was my little pun there.
Yeah, that's good. And obviously, yeah, you got you some good yards. Going into Monday too, it wasn't a done deal, and crazy things have happened, even though, it's a tall order to ask for 30 points from a defense and a tight end. But Darren Waller got the touchdown. The Raiders started to do good in that second half, and like a pick six happens or something, it could have changed everything. So, were you a little nervous there in that last half there?
If anybody's going to go get 20 points real quick, it's Darren Waller, and Derek Carr loves the guy. And I don't know why they didn't throw to him a whole lot more. He seemed like he was open a lot, but I was real thankful that it went like that. Cause 30 points between the defense and Darren Waller, you never feel safe.
Yeah, for sure. You do get that win though, and obviously you get to do it here on the Game of the Week. You get another chance at a Game of the Week where you'll be at home at Skyward Peaks in a couple of weeks, I believe week 6. So are you excited to get another shot to maybe get an interview here in a couple of weeks?
Week 6 is a big one. Yeah, it's going to be a showdown week 6. So just making sure my guys are ready, every day of the week, and make sure not to look ahead. Got to go through. Got to go through the rest of the weeks before we get there, but looking forward to it.
Yeah, and of course, we get to learn some lore from Skyward Peaks as well. What are your thoughts so far on our epic post-apocalyptic sci-fi theme we got going on? You enjoying it?
It's pretty awesome. Was at the Steel Shores this week. Got to visit the bubbling lake. It was nice and warm there, so yeah, pretty solid.
All right, man. Well, I look forward to our match in week 9. That'll be fun. I'd like to get some revenge against you. You took me down in the playoffs last year in a good matchup, getting the sort of, I guess, the upset as the 6th seed over me. I get to host you, though, at the Great Superior Eyes. I'm 2-0 so far there, so hopefully I keep that up.
Just hope you don't put up another 165-point game. So.
Well, at this trajectory, that game could be really big too, if we're both still in first, first round buys and all that could be coming into play. Tiebreaker possibility for that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we got a long way to go, but it could be a real good one by week 9 for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Well, thanks to Uncle Justy for joining me to discuss his nice win. And next up, I will take a look at some key positional matchup rankings for our top 5 defenses in the league. So you don't want to miss that.
Okay, so here we are through 4 weeks, and while these numbers are sure to change, as I always feel that matchups don't really become truly playable for fantasy purposes until at least week 8 when there's enough data to make very good predictions. But 4 weeks is still good enough of a sample for a prediction as to where teams will come by that time, and maybe by the end of the year. Sometimes a team gets lucky or they played bad teams, but the positional matchups are a good way to see just how good a defense is performing in fantasy football. Our top defenses so far in 2021 are the Buffalo Bills, owned by the Stellar Bitches, the Denver Broncos, owned by Uncle Justy, the Arizona Cardinals, owned by the Multiple Scoregasms, the New Orleans Saints, which was previously owned by Green Acres until just being dropped, and the Cleveland Browns, owned by my great superior Superb Owls. Starting with Cleveland, they have 37 points so far, 9 sacks, 3 forced turnovers, 67 points allowed, 1,001 yards allowed. 9 of those sacks and 22 of those points came against Chicago in week 3, so perhaps this is just an anomaly. But let's dive into the positional matchups. Versus wide receivers, the Browns are currently the 6th best defense against those wide receivers, just 607 yards and 3 touchdowns allowed.
That includes Chicago and Houston, but also Kansas City and Minnesota. Cleveland is also the 13th best team against quarterbacks, allowing 835 yards and 6 TDs, much of it against Kansas City, and also has allowed 2 rushing touchdowns by quarterbacks. The Browns are also 13th against tight ends, allowing 125 yards and 2 scores. Almost all of that was against Travis Kelce, though. We know how much of a beast he is. Against running backs, which includes Delvin Cook, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and David Montgomery, Cleveland is second best right now, allowing just 206 yards on the ground and 105 yards through the air against that position. Only 1 receiving touchdown has been allowed, so very good against running backs. Next, we move to the New Orleans Saints defense. The Saints have 46 points right now, but that also includes a defensive touchdown. The Saints have 6 sacks and 8 forced turnovers and have allowed 69 points and 1,397 yards. Surprisingly, the defense was the worst all year last week against the New York Giants, which might be the reason why Green Acres dropped them, but they were the best against Ron Rodgers in Green Bay in week 1. Carolina and New England were the other teams they played, and you can make your guesstimates on how good those offenses really are. We knew New England had as a rookie quarterback. Maybe they're not so good, but Carolina's not doing that bad so far with Darnold. The Saints have actually struggled against wide receivers, though, coming in at 20th in the league, allowing 810 yards and 4 touchdowns. So that's been a big concern for them. But what's funny is that the Saints are actually 7th best against quarterbacks. I'm guessing that's mostly due to the performance against Rodgers in week 1. But Daniel Jones did light them up for 402 yards and 2 scores in week 4, so who knows? Right now, the Saints have allowed 1,178 yards and 7 scores against quarterbacks. The Saints are 8th best against tight ends, allowing 180 yards and no touchdowns, but none of the 4 teams they played really have a good tight end, so we'll see there. New Orleans is 9th best against running backs, and that actually includes Aaron Jones, Christian McCaffrey, Damian Harris, and Saquon Barkley, though Barkley did have 126 total yards and 2 scores in week 4. Those 2 scores by Barkley are 2 of 3 allowed by the Saints at the position, 2 on the ground and 1 through the air. The Saints have allowed 203 yards on the ground and 188 yards through the air against running backs in 4 weeks. Third on our list is Arizona, which comes in with 47 points. That includes 10 sacks, 9 forced turnovers, a defensive touchdown as well. The Cardinals have allowed 79 points and 1,429 yards. And this includes games against Tennessee, Minnesota, Jacksonville, and the LA Rams. The turnovers and defensive score seem to be a big reason why the Cardinals are third. They are 8th worst against wide receivers, allowing 712 yards and 7 touchdowns. That's a lot of touchdowns. But the interceptions make the Cardinals 10th best against quarterbacks, allowing 955 yards and 7 TDs, but also picking off 4 passes. They also have allowed 100 yards and a score on the ground against quarterbacks. The Cardinals are 2nd best against tight ends, allowing just 93 yards, but Tyler Higbee was the best tight end they've played so far, so we'll see there. The Cardinals are 12th best against running backs, allowing 443 yards and a touchdown on the ground, 150 yards through the air. And that includes games against Derrick Henry, Delvin Cook, James Robinson, and Darrell Henderson. So not bad there. That's a nice key for them. Denver has been a big surprise at defense. They're at number 2 so far with 52 points. Yes, 11 sacks and 5 forced turnovers help, but the 49 points allowed and 1,071 yards allowed are also key to these points here. But Baltimore was the best team they've played so far, as they've beat up on the New York Giants, New York Jets, and Jacksonville Jaguars. 25 points came against the Jets alone. Still, Denver is 14th against wide receivers so far, allowing 694 yards and 3 TDs. They also are 3rd against quarterbacks, allowing 861 yards and 3 touchdowns while picking off 4 passes. They have allowed a rushing touchdown to a quarterback, though. The Broncos are 4th against tight ends, with Mark Andrews probably being the best one they've played, 122 yards, no touchdowns allowed there. And Denver is number 1 against running backs, allowing 202 yards and a score on the ground, 45 yards through the air. James Robinson and Saquon Barkley were probably the best running backs they faced, however, so we're not sure if that's going to continue. Lastly, we get to Buffalo, which is well ahead of the rest. 65 points, and that includes 12 sacks, 11 forced turnovers, 44 points allowed, and only 867 yards allowed. But this also includes two dominant shutouts against Miami and Houston and their backup quarterbacks. The Bills also played Pittsburgh's lackluster offense and Washington. Still, the Bills have been very good at second best against wide receivers, allowing 389 yards and just one touchdown. That might take a hit against Kansas City, though. We'll have to see. The Bills are number one against quarterbacks, but again, Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes looms, so this might not last. But right now, they've allowed 669 yards and 3 scores. They've picked off 7 passes. They have allowed 1 rushing score against quarterbacks. The Bills are 6th against tight ends, allowing 142 yards and a score. But Logan Thomas was the best tight end they've played, and Travis Kelce looms. You see a pattern here. The Bills are 3rd against running backs, allowing 205 yards on the ground and 140 yards and a score through the air. Najee Harris was in his debut. Myles Gaskin and Antonio Gibson's are the other best backs they've played. So if this is going to continue, that also remains to be seen. Of course, defense have won games and lost games in our league and has mattered in most matches in the season. So, of course, the matchups do matter in the end for our players. So let's see how everything might shake up in Week 5. First up, Uncle Justy of the Western Territory travels to Ghost Mountain in the Central Territory to take on 1-3 Meow Master. Uncle Justy is the road favorite here with a 64% chance to win. Moves might be made as both teams have injuries to watch, but at the moment, Josh Allen versus Jalen Hurts, that matchup at quarterback looks very fun to watch, as is Saquon Barkley versus Derrick Henry at running back. The Patriots defense versus the San Francisco defense could also be pretty key here. We'll see what happens. Next, 1-3 Remember the Titans of the Eastern Territory hosts 1-3 the Call to Chucky at Liberty's Watch in a huge early season game, as the losing team will essentially be in last place in the league. Remember the Titans holds a 55.9% chance to win here with some intriguing roster moves. Trey Lance is now his starting quarterback for the week. Can he outduel Aaron Rodgers? Also, Cordarrelle Patterson and Damian Williams versus DeAndre Swift and Tony Pollard might be a difference maker. The Bears and the Raiders defenses also going head to head in a game those teams actually play each other is also going to be fun to watch. The Stellar Bitches, who come out of the Western Territory and are 2-2 overall, travel to the Eastern Territory to take on the 2-2 multiple scoregasms at the Gateway Islands. The scoregasms come in with a 58% chance to win. Some questions here are, will James Robinson and Aaron Jones of the scoregasms outscore Ezekiel Elliott and Miles Sanders? And will Mike Evans and Calvin Ridley of the Bitches outscore Chris Godwin and T. Higgins? The battle at defense could also be interesting. The Bills have been great for the Bitches, but will the Chiefs cause a problem? And can the Colts stop the Ravens' rushing attack for the scoregasms? This one might be a little closer than the computers think. 2-2 Galgal of the Western Territory travels to the Philosopher's Swamp in the Central Territory to take on 3-1 low-key Lebowski Thor. Lebowski Thor holds a 53.3% chance to win despite missing Christian McCaffrey. Kyler Murray versus Dak Prescott at quarterback, Keenan Allen versus Mike Williams at wide receiver, and the Buccaneers defense versus the Rams defense are all matchups to watch, as the defenses were high draft picks that have not been too consistent so far. 2-2 Green Acres of the Eastern Territory hosts 3-1 the Great Superior Superb Owls, which play out of the Central Territory at the Blue Dunes. The Superb Owls come in with a mind-boggling 69% chance to win, but a lot of that is most likely due to last week's performance. The computers might be falling into the trap of expecting the same output. The reason for this match probably being a little closer is that Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill go up against one of the best defenses in the Buffalo Bills. However, Taylor Heineke has a tough matchup on the other side, as does Austin Eckler. But through all of it, the defense might be the biggest key, as the Browns have a tough matchup against the Chargers, and Green Acres has Pittsburgh going up against Denver. So we'll see what happens there. And now it is time for
The Game of the Week!
in the next
Game of the week.
We get a matchup between 2019 champion Risky Business against two-time playoff qualifier the Siamese Dreamcats, who is hungry to get back to the playoffs. And both teams come in at 2-2 overall, so this becomes a big potential tiebreaker game. The Dreamcats, of course, are the host, so before we go any further with this matchup, let's look at the Sea of Angels.
Hey everyone. This week we get another out of division clash with a lot on the line, but we also need to learn more about the next stop in our adventure, the Sea of Angels. The Sea of Angels is an ancient city that seemed to be dry at one point. Now it is mostly below water, and endless storms and the relentless waves make it difficult to reach the old structures by boat. But many of us have actually visited these structures underground, as there are caves that remain dry below everything. You can travel into some of the structures that aren't completely filled with water, and in them we have found many supplies for our colony. I, of course, revisited here after I was exiled in order to get ready for my journey, which has brought me to where I am today. But there was also a strange door in the caves. I was told it was forbidden, something about a demon. I was curious, so I blew it open. Inside was some sort of a bunker and a lot of bones. I noticed that the bunker itself had another closed-off area that was inoperable due to the sea breaching the other side, and that the room I was in was once filled with water. In this room, I found part of a file that somehow survived the water damage. It had a map and directions for the bean I mentioned before. It also spoke of time travel, the first time my interest was piqued in such matters. The bones, however, did scare me. They were not natural, as it was clear they had been spit up from something large. It wasn't long before I discovered one of the other reasons no one takes a boat onto the surface. It is because of the giant octopus that has a taste for human flesh. I resealed the door, understanding that the caves were dry due to this bunker and to help keep anyone safe from the octopus, but I am not sure if I did a good enough job. So don't go swimming around the areas and get to higher ground if you see water coming. Now back to the match.
Risky Business comes in with a 57% chance to win against the Siamese Dreamcats, but there are plenty of game-changing matchups here. Delvin Cook versus Elvin Kamara at running back is very interesting. Cook is working his way back from an injury and might not be 100%, and on the other side, Kamara has been vultured by Taysom Hill many times so far this season. Also, the DK Metcalf versus Tyler Lockett matchup is another intriguing match. Metcalf seems to be the steady target man so far, but Lockett is a deep ball threat that can go off for many touchdowns in games. Metcalf might also be guarded by Jalen Ramsey here, so we'll see what happens. Lamar Jackson versus Tom Brady and the Ravens defense versus the Colts defense are also matchups to watch. There could be some swings there. But I, of course, see two key intriguing players here for both teams that could be the difference between a win or a loss. For the Dreamcats, I look to Jamar Chase, the wide receiver. Chase is a rookie who has turned 25 targets into 17 receptions, 297 yards, and 4 touchdowns in 4 games here in 2021. He's shown he can make the big play on deep routes, and he has actually made some first down grabs as well. He had a season-high 9 targets in Week 4 and might be trending up, which also might make him a consistent wide receiver while also raising his ceiling at the same time due to his 68% catch rate on balls thrown toward him. That includes just 1 drop. So the other targets that he didn't get were either defended well or uncatchable. With T. Higgins still banged up, Chase might continue to see a lot of targets if he remains as efficient, and another touchdown here, it could end up being very huge against Risky Business. Speaking of Risky Business, I'm sticking at wide receiver here for his key, turning to Scary Terry McLaurin. McLaurin has 2 good games and 2 not so good games so far in 4 weeks. He had 170 yards and a score in week 2 with 11 receptions on 14 targets. 123 yards and 2 scores last week with 6 receptions on 13 targets, but he had a combined 124 yards and no scores in the other 2 contests with 8 receptions on 11 targets combined. And a lot depends on Taylor Heineke getting him the ball and the game script. As previously stated on this show, though, the Saints have allowed 4 scores to wide receivers in 4 weeks. So which Terry will show up here? Scary or nary? Well, it might be very huge for Risky Business's chances. And of course, that's the show for the week. I hope you enjoyed it. Next week, we'll learn why the mysterious stranger got involved in science in the first place, and we'll see if any teams are riding high or are in deep trouble after 5 weeks of action. Before we go, here are the updated power rankings headed into week 5.
Please follow the SunDried Tomatoes YouTube channel and watch content, including original shows like Legends of the Diamond, Random Reactions, and Brewing the Facts, the SunDried Tomatoes podcast in video form, and other sports brewing or entertainment-related videos. You can like the Facebook page and follow me on Instagram at eclectic_yotso for news updates and just to get to know me better.